Use headphones for best experience.
If they fail on Erebus, the whisper goes system-wide. So they lie, smile, and carry a relic through a crowded station toward the reactor. Someone is already waiting on the other side of the door. The shuttle dropped out of FTL above a bleak metallic sprawl orbiting a dull red star. Erebus Station hung against the void, an aging colony outpost built around a central ring and two long docking arms. Elias brought their shuttle in on minimal thrusters, trying to appear unremarkable among the trickle of mining ships and supply freighters. "Let's keep a low profile," he muttered. Beside him, Mara nodded and pulled her hooded jacket tight over her vac suit, hiding its mission patches. They had changed out of their clunky armor and into more civilian attire before approach. The marker shard remained locked in a shielded equipment case at Elias's feet. Hopefully that would mask the artifact's ominous signal, at least for a while. Elias docked at a secondary bay far from the main concourse. The station's customs check was perfunctory. A tired-looking officer barely glanced at their falsified ship manifest, identifying them as technicians delivering mining equipment, and waved them through. Soon, Elias and Mara stepped into the bustling corridors of Erebus Station. A faint antiseptic smell mixed with engine fumes. The interior was utilitarian. Bare metal walls scuffed by decades of use, lighting panels casting a sickly yellow hue. Crowds of weary colonists, dusty miners, and a few armed security personnel shuffled through the halls. Mara stayed close, scanning every face. After Goliath and G47V, the normalcy of people going about their daily lives felt surreal. Elias felt it too, a disconnect, as if he and Mara were specters in a world blissfully unaware of the horror shadowing them. They made their way toward the station's research sector, following bilingual signage. Elias had a specific destination in mind, Lab 7 of the Science Wing. Dr. Celina Kana, he said under his breath, recalling the name from the station directory he'd accessed en route. She was an exobiologist who'd published on xenotechnology. If anyone on Erebus could analyze a marker fragment, it would be her. With luck, she wouldn't immediately turn them in. Lab 7's frosted glass doors slid open to an empty antechamber. The lights were dim and equipment hummed softly. "Stay here. I'll see if she's in," Elias whispered. Mara nodded, lingering by the door as he stepped inside. "Hello?" Elias called quietly. The lab smelled of chemicals and ozone. Monitors glowed on a central terminal, displaying charts and readouts. A figure emerged from behind a containment chamber. A slim woman in a lab coat, steel gray hair in a bun. She eyed Elias warily. "We're closed. Who are you?" she asked brusquely, clutching a data slate to her chest. "Dr. Kana." "My name is Elias Vance," he began gently. "I know this is irregular, but we need your expertise." He set the heavy case he carried onto a steel table. "You specialize in xenotechnology and artifacts. We have something that needs analysis. It's urgent." Dr. Kana's eyes narrowed behind her spectacles. "What kind of artifact?" "The dangerous kind," Mara said softly from the doorway, stepping into the lab. Kana's gaze flicked to Mara's pale, bruised face and the tension in her stance. Elias unlatched the case. "We retrieved this from the mining vessel Goliath." He lifted the lid, revealing the marker shard wrapped in clear protective film. Even shielded, the shard seemed to dull the light around it, jagged and black, etched with alien glyphs. Dr. Kana sucked in a breath and set her data slate down with trembling hands. "Is that?" She approached, eyes widening. She clearly recognized it as something extraordinary. "You know about the markers?" Mara asked. Kana gave a hesitant nod. "Rumors, mostly. Fragments of reports from Aegis 7, Titan Station. Officially, none of it exists, but I've seen references to artifacts that emit psychic waves, drive people mad, reanimate the dead." She trailed off, gaze fixed on the shard. "I never thought I'd see one." Her face showed a mix of fear and academic fascination. She tore her eyes from the shard to look at Elias. "This is incredibly dangerous. Why bring it here?" "Because we need to destroy it," Elias replied, "and we don't know how. Every attempt so far," he shook his head. "We were hoping you could help us figure out a way. Quickly." Dr. Kana gingerly passed a handheld scanner over the shard. The device screen flashed with readings. Material composition, remarkable, practically indestructible. She bit her lip. "Perhaps if you disrupted it at a molecular level, extreme thermal or gravitational forces. Maybe a fusion reactor or a stellar furnace," Kana muttered, thinking aloud. Mara stepped closer, a flicker of hope in her eye. "The colony's mining complex. Do they have a smelter? Explosives?" Kana frowned. "They have plasma furnaces for ore, but those are too small for this. The station's central fusion reactor, though." She looked between them. "If you insert this fragment into the active reactor core, the plasma could incinerate it. But it would be incredibly dangerous." Before Elias could reply, a voice crackled over the lab intercom. "Dr. Kana, station security, please step into the hall." All three froze. Elias shot Kana a warning look and snapped the case shut over the shard. Mara edged toward the rear exit. Kana pressed a wall button. "This is Dr. Kana. Is there a problem?" The voice responded flatly. "Routine security sweep. Step out, please." Mara met Elias's eyes. Something was wrong. Routine sweeps didn't target specific labs. Had the unitologists found them already? Kana whispered urgently, "Back door now." She pointed to a side hatch. Before they could move, the main door slid open. 3 people strode in, station guards by uniform, but their eyes burned with fanatic intensity, each leveled a pistol. "Step away from the case," barked the lead guard, a tall man with a shaved head. His voice trembled with zeal beneath its calm. Unitologists. Elias's blood went cold. Of course the marker's acolytes would be here. Dr. Kana moved in front of the case, arms outstretched. "What is the meaning of—" One of the cultists struck her with his rifle butt. Kana cried out and crumpled against a desk. Mara drew her pistol, but the lead cultist was faster. He swung his weapon toward her. Elias lunged without thinking. He slammed into the man's arm just as he fired. The shot sizzled past Mara and blew out a monitor in a shower of sparks. Chaos erupted. Another cultist rushed Mara. She fired twice, point blank. The fanatic fell with a gurgle, blood spreading on his security uniform. The third guard, a wiry woman, charged Elias, driving him into a metal table. Equipment crashed to the floor. Elias grappled with her, straining to keep her gun from turning on him. "Drop it," the lead cultist snarled at Mara. He had recovered, and now had his pistol pressed to Dr. Kana's head. As the scientist lay dazed, Mara hesitated. Gun trained on him, but finger off the trigger. Elias saw the cultist's crazed eyes flick toward the case. "The sacred relic will be ours," the man hissed. "You cannot stop convergence." Elias's arms burned as he wrestled for the pistol with the female cultist. She raked a gloved hand across his helmet, scratching at his face beneath. With a grunt, he twisted the gun from her grasp and struck her across the jaw. Her head snapped back and she collapsed, unconscious or worse. A shot rang out. Mara gasped in pain. The lead cultist had fired at her, grazing her left arm. Mara's pistol clattered to the floor and she stumbled against the containment chamber, clutching her bleeding arm. "No!" Elias roared. Rage blurred his vision. He raised the captured gun and emptied it into the lead cultist. 3 shots punched into the man's chest, knocking him backward. He hit the floor, gun sliding from his hand. For a moment, the lab was silent, except for Dr. Kana's sobbing breaths. Elias panted, heart hammering, and quickly kicked away the cultists' weapons. Mara leaned against the chamber, her sleeve wet with blood but eyes fierce. Elias moved to her side. "Are you okay?" She nodded through clenched teeth. "Just a scratch." Dr. Kana pulled herself upright, trembling. She looked in horror at the 2 bodies on her lab floor. "God, what have you brought here?" Trouble, Elias answered grimly. He knelt and checked the lead cultist's neck for a pulse. Dead. We've got to go now. There could be more on the way. Mara retrieved the marker's case, keeping her pistol in her other hand. Dr. Kana picked up her data slate with shaking hands. I'll help you get to the reactor, she stammered. It's the only chance to be rid of that thing, right? Elias was surprised, but there was no time to argue. He nodded. Stay behind us. They slipped out into the corridor through Lab 7's back door. Alarms began to blare, security alerts triggered by the gunfire. Over the din, Elias heard shouted orders and running footsteps somewhere distant. Whether it was station security or more unitologist agents, he didn't want to find out. This way, Kana urged, leading them down a maintenance hall. The reactor's through engineering, past 2 bulkheads. As they rounded a corner, a group of 3 station security officers appeared ahead, weapons drawn. The officers hesitated seeing civilians, but Elias knew an injured woman and armed man would raise questions they had no time to answer. Mara acted instantly. She slumped against Elias, hiding her pistol against his side, and cried out, "Please help! There's been an accident!" The officers rushed forward, lowering their guns slightly. "Ma'am, are you?" Before they finished, Mara swung her pistol up. "Get down!" Elias shouted, dragging Dr. Kana to the floor. Mara fired over Kana's head, a precise burst that shattered a ceiling light above the officers. Sparks and glass rained. The confused security team flinched, arms raised, and Elias barreled into them. All 3 went down in a heap. Mara and Kana scrambled past as Elias wrestled one officer's sidearm away. He didn't want to shoot these men. They were just doing their jobs, but he delivered a hard blow to the head of the nearest, knocking him cold. The other 2 struggled beneath their heavy gear. "Go!" Elias barked at Mara. She nodded, eyes wide, and pulled Kana along. Elias broke off and ran after them before the remaining officers could recover, leaving the security men bruised but alive. They dashed through the industrial underbelly of the station. Siren lights flashed across metal corridors. Overhead, an announcement droned. Security incident in Wing C. All personnel remain at stations. Elias's lungs burned as they reached the engineering sector. Mara, pale and sweating, clutched her wounded arm to stem the bleeding, but kept running. Dr. Kana struggled to keep up, but fear propelled her. At last, a reinforced door labeled reactor loomed ahead. Elias swiped the override, and they spilled into the reactor antechamber. It was a circular hall encircling the reactor core. Behind thick radiation glass, the glow of the station's fusion heart pulsed. Kana hurried to a control console. "I can initiate a manual overload," she said, fingers flying over the interface. "It will take a couple minutes to reach critical. You'll need to get that fragment into the core chamber." Elias set the marker's case down and opened it. The shard inside seemed to vibrate with anticipation or dread. He exchanged a look with Mara. "Ready?" Mara's face was bloodless, but she nodded. "Let's end this." Elias found the reactor chamber access, an iris hatch at the chamber base, controlled by a mechanical wheel. He began cranking it open. Beyond the thick hatch, plasma gases swirled in a containment field. Behind them, muffled shouts grew louder. The station security was catching up. Mara took position facing the door, plasma cutter aimed, to guard Elias and Kana. The marker shard's presence made Elias's head throb. Faint whispers tickled his mind, but he grit his teeth and kept turning the hatch wheel. Almost got it. With a heavy clunk, the iris hatch slid ajar, bathing Elias in blistering heat and blinding light from the reactor core within. A warning klaxon sounded as containment was breached. "Overload sequence activated," Dr. Kana called from the console. "We have about 60 seconds." Elias hoisted the marker shard out of its case. The black fragment seemed to writhe in his grasp, as if alive and resisting. Elias's vision swam with images, hallucinations of writhing bodies, of a titanic, fleshy moon looming in the sky. He nearly faltered. Mara was suddenly at his side. She placed her hand over his, steadying the shard's aim toward the open core. "Together," she shouted over the roar of energy. They hurled the marker fragment into the reactor. For an instant, the shard hung suspended in the plasma stream, a stark black silhouette against the searing brightness. Then, in a flash like a newborn star, it vaporized. A shockwave blasted outward, flinging Elias and Mara off their feet. Dr. Kana screamed something, but Elias couldn't hear. His ears rang as the reactor chamber belched flame. Elias found Mara's hand and gripped it as the three of them scrambled toward the exit. The reactor was in full meltdown now. Molten light spilled from the core, melting floor grates and igniting cables. They stumbled into the outer hall just as security forces reached the far door. A half-dozen station guards stood gaping at the inferno erupting behind Elias, Mara, and Kana. "For God's sake, run!" Dr. Kana screamed at them. Erebus Station's reactor erupted, a spherical fireball consuming the chamber. Elias felt a giant's fist of heat punch him and Mara forward. They tumbled through the ranks of stunned guards as the blast behind them incinerated everything in its path. Elias dimly registered being dragged to his feet. Guards were yelling, pulling him, Mara, and Kana down a corridor as emergency bulkheads slammed shut to contain the blast. Then, nothing but an endless howl and searing white. When Elias's eyes opened, he was on a station medbay floor, ears still ringing. Sprinklers sprayed mist overhead, and alarms whooped. He tried to sit up and groaned. His ribs ached fiercely. Mara lay a few feet away, on her back, an oxygen mask pressed to her face by a medic. Soot and blood smeared her features, but she was moving, coughing weakly. When her eye found Elias, relief washed over her expression. "It's done," Elias rasped, unsure if she could hear. "It's done." Through a shattered viewport beyond, he could see a plume of debris venting into space from the reactor side of Erebus Station. The marker shard was gone, truly destroyed at last. Dr. Kana knelt against a wall nearby, dazed but alive, being questioned frantically by a station official. Guards rushed about, attending to wounded colleagues. Miraculously, the station still held together, though it was badly damaged. A pair of security officers advanced on Elias and Mara, weapons drawn. "Don't move, you're under arrest," one shouted. Elias almost laughed, a hysterical bubble of exhaustion and triumph welling inside him. He raised his hands feebly. There would be interrogations, imprisonment perhaps, but none of it mattered. The nightmare of the marker was over. Mara pushed herself up to sitting, waving off the medic. Her face was streaked with tears and grime. "We finished it, Elias," she whispered, her voice raw and small beneath the wail of alarms. Elias managed to grin, despite everything. He reached for her hand and she gripped it tight. Whatever came next, court-martials, confinement, or worse, they would face it freed from the marker's shadow. Together, Elias Vance and Mara Jensen had endured hell and destroyed a fragment of it. In the smoky, chaotic aftermath on Erebus Station, they sat side by side, eyes closed and hands clasped, each drawing strength from the other. They had won. The horrors would never be forgotten. But for the first time, the voices were silent. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like, comment, or share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more stories like this one.